Hi darlings, I'm Anna and today we are making a cozy little winter set, fingerless gloves and matching leg warmers. This tutorial is completely beginner friendly, so don't worry if you are just starting out. We'll go step by step and by the end you will have a soft practical set you can actually wear all winter. Let's get started. We are going to start with the materials. You will need some yarn. I'm using Drops Alaska, which is a worsted or aran yarn. You can find all the description of your yarn here. You can use any type, any kind that you want. You can use thinner yarns also. And for every yarn you will find a recommendation for the hook, which is 5 millimeters for me. So I will be using a 5 millimeter hook for this project. If you want tighter stitches, you can always use a smaller hook. You will need a darning needle to weave in the ends, some stitch markers, but you can use anything as scrap yarn or really anything, and then a pair of scissors. And let's get started. So grab your yarn and place it on your palm like this. We will start by making a slip knot. Get your index finger and insert it in the loop, turn it upwards, insert your thumb next to it, and grab the working yarn, which has the longer tail, and pull through. And then place your hook in the loop and tighten. This is how you make a slip knot. To hold your yarn, there are many different ways. This is how I hold mine. Wrap it around my pinky and then over my index finger. And this is how I hold my hook. We will start by chaining, and this depends on your size. So you will need to decide where you want your chains to start or your hand warmers to start, how long you want them to be. And then where do they end? For example, I would recommend ending somewhere here, so not shorter than your fingers. You can make it longer if you want, but I wouldn't make it shorter. Also, just to preface, these are all the results of my loving cat, so don't worry about me. And let's get started. To chain, you are going to yarn over and pull through the loop that's on your hook. Again, yarn over and pull through the loop. Yarn over, pull through the loop. I will do around 30 chains, which is my preferred length, but you can do more or less. This depends on you. Also, you can try on as you go to see if the length is good for you. Let's see. This is what 30 chains look like for me, which is what I want, so I will stop here. And before we go on, you can count your stitches to make sure you have the number that you think you have, because you will need to repeat this on your other hand and you don't want the length to be different. Okay, and if the number of chains are correct, then we can move on and we will start by chaining one more, which will be our turning chain. So just add one more chain. We will add a turning chain after every row, and that doesn't count as a stitch or a chain or nothing. We will work yarn over slip stitches in each row, and I will show you what that looks like. So first we are going to skip this very first chain, which is our turning chain, and we will work into the second one. This loop that's on your hook doesn't count as a stitch. So this is our first one and this is the second one. This V-shape thing is a chain. These are all chains. So to do a yarn over slip stitch, you will obviously yarn over, skip the first one, and into the second chain, go into the chain and grab the yarn, pull through and pull up a loop. You will have this loop here and you should have 3 loops on your hook. And now you will pull this first loop through these 2 loops. So go over or go under and just pull through both loops. You can do it one by one if it's easier for you. And you can also hold the 2 loops down. Make sure you have looser stitches so it will be easier to do this process. I will show you again, don't worry. So yarn over, insert your hook into the next chain. You will see what your next chain is because this you have clearly worked into this one. So this is the next one. Insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop. You have 3 loops on your hook. As I said, you can hold on to the loop so it doesn't move much. And if you do that, I would recommend holding on to the working loop and then pull through one and pull through the other one. Again, this is the loop, this is the chain that we worked into now. So this is the next one. So insert your hook and pull up a loop and then pull through both loops. Again, insert your hook and pull up a loop. I recommend pulling your loop taller than just the necessary because then you will loosen up your stitches, which will help you on the long run with your other rows. So pull up a loop and then go under both loops just like this. And you will repeat this process until you reach the end of your row. So yarn over, insert your hook into the next chain, pull up a loop and then pull through both loops. It may be harder at first, but don't worry, it will get easier the more you do it. I personally like doing the yarn over slip stitches because in my opinion it gives you the most ribbing like effect. If you can't work as fast as me, don't worry, that's totally fine. You can stop the video and continue when you reach the end of the row. Once you reach the end of the row, make sure you don't skip the very first chain and you go into this as well. Sometimes it's tighter, so it's harder to see, but your work and your edges will be wobbly if you skip this one. So make sure you work into this as well. And this is what our first row will look like. You can give it a gentle stretch And yeah, that's it. So let's keep working. As I said, we are going to chain 1 as our turning chain after every row, and now we will actually turn our work. And we will continue working yarn over slip stitches in this row as well, in the back loop only. So first of all, this is a stitch. This V-shaped thing is a stitch. Every single one of these V shapes are stitches. Don't confuse them with the side, which also look like V shapes and stitches, but they are not. The easiest way to recognize which they are is by following the turning chain. As you can see, this is our turning chain, so the same direction should be the stitch. And what you need to know about the stitches is that every stitch has a front and a back loop. The front loop is the one that's closer to you, and then the back loop is on the other side of the project, on the back side of the project, which is not visible for you. And we will be working in the back loops only. Usually you work into both loops. This time we will only work into the back loops. So let's start. Yarn over. Insert your hook into the very first back loop. You skip the turning chain as usual. And insert your hook here. And then pull up a loop. And just do your yarn over slip stitch. Make sure to keep the project loose so it will be easier to work into each stitch. Find the next back loop, which is this one for me. Yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull through both loops. If you are a complete beginner, you can mark the very first stitch, which is tighter than the rest, usually. So in case you think you won't see it when you get back, you can just mark it with a stitch marker or anything you have, really. Let's keep working, placing yarn over slip stitches in each back loop. Once you're getting closer to the end, again, make sure that you don't miss any stitches. For example, this was our very first stitch in the first row. It might be harder to see, but make sure that you go into this as well in the back loop and finish your last yarn over slip stitch and then chain 1. So this is what our work looks like now. And actually row 2 is going to be the repetition, which means you will do again and again the second row, which is just turn your work. Work yarn over slip stitches into each back loop until you reach the end. And then chain 1, turn your work and repeat the process. So we already chained 1, turned our work, and to repeat row 2, we are going to work yarn over slip stitches until we reach the end of the row. And then at the end, we are going to turn our work again after chaining 1 and start again. I will leave you to finish the whole panel. You will just need to repeat the second row, and if you need help with that, you can rewatch the section of the video. It is marked, so it's easy for you to find it, and just repeat the same process which you did in the second row until you finish the whole panel, which means, for reference, this is my other panel. This is how your work will look. You will need to make as many rows as you need to wrap the piece around your hand and around your wrist. Usually the wrist is thinner than the hand part, so just make sure that it fits both. It's not too loose here, but also I would recommend going a bit tighter so it keeps the warmth better. So go ahead and finish all your rows, and I will see you at the end of the panel, and I will show you how to fasten off and how to connect the side. Good luck! I'm on my last row now, before I finish the panel. And when you are also done, make sure you try if the panel fits one last time. And if it does, we will need to start connecting the two sides. First, we will need to decide where our thumb will come out of. So for that, wrap the project around your hand. And for this, you can use a stitch marker if you want, and just decide where the connection will be. So for example, I think this is one of mine, right below my thumb, and then one right above my thumb. So I will use a stitch marker to mark one stitch. So I mark this one. I will count how many stitches are up to this point, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I will also count on the other side and make sure I connect on the 9th stitch, which is this one. You don't need to work with a stitch marker, you can just count the stitches and stop when you are done. But I use stitch markers so I can show you how to measure both panels more accurately. And now moving on to the bottom part, I say I will stop here. And again I will insert a stitch marker here. Count the stitches that lead up to here, which is 12, and then count the other side as well. Something I didn't mention is that you will have chains on one side, so you count the chains and not the stitches. But they kind of look the same, so it shouldn't be hard. And now you can try it if it fits you. You can make some modifications if you need to leave a bigger hole or a smaller hole. I think I will move this bottom stitch marker up until here, so I will add maybe 3 stitches, and then we can start connecting the panels. I hope you didn't fasten off your work, because we will need this yarn to work. So first, attach your yarn, chain 1, turn your work, and we will connect the two panels going stitch by stitch using slip stitches. To do a slip stitch, you will need to do the exact same thing which we did before, but without yarning over. So go into the very first chain, which again might not be as visible because it's the first one. This is mine. And now yarn over and pull through the chain, and then pull through the loop that's on your hook. We are going to do a slip stitch in this chain again using the very first stitch on the front panel, and then the same chain on the back panel. So insert your hook into both the very first stitch and then the very first chain, and then you're going to yarn over and pull through both sides. You will have 2 loops on your hook, and now we'll do the slip stitch. So pull this loop through the first one here, and we will repeat this step until we reach the end. So go into the second stitch or the next stitch, find the next chain. This is where our yarn is now, so this is the next chain. Insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, and this new loop you will need to pull through the first loop. Again, find the next stitch and find the next chain. This is which we worked into now, so this is the next one. Yarn over, pull up a loop and pull through the first loop. Make sure your slip stitches are not very tight and they are the same tension that you used for the panels, so the panel won't shrink even a bit. Again, next stitch and the next loop, and keep repeating this step until you reach the stitch marker, or if you don't use a stitch marker, then your stitch count. And once you reach the stitch marker, you can take it out because you know that the next stitch will be the last one, and go into the very next stitch and chain, which is the last one, and pull through. And to fasten off, chain 1 and cut the yarn, leaving a tail which we will need to weave in, and pull through the end of the yarn and tighten it so it will close. And this is what our seam looks like. This will be the inside of our project because we will need to turn it inside out eventually. And now we will repeat the same process on the other side. But this time you will need to attach the yarn. So turn your work, and this time you will use the chains first and then you will go into the stitches. Make sure you find the very first stitch because again, from here it's visible, but from the side you can't really see it. So slowly go into the first one, like this. And now place the yarn on your hook, pull it through, chain 1 to secure it. And this is how you attach yarn to the project. And now we will start working, placing slip stitches. Starting with this very first one, to extra security, we will go into these chain and loop or stitch again and place a slip stitch here. And now find the next chain, find the next stitch and place slip stitches here as well. And repeat the process until you reach the stitch marker. And once you reach the last one, you can remove the marker and place the very last slip stitch. Then chain 1, cut the yarn leaving a tail and pull through. Now for the big try-on. And this is how it fits, which is just perfect, exactly what I wanted. Let's move on to the leg warmers, which will be a similar process. First, you need to decide what kind of leg warmer you want to do according to your style, preference, trends, anything. And then you will need to measure the length for your leg warmers. I did 30 chains for my hand warmers and I want my leg warmers to be longer. So I think I will do around 40 chains for my leg warmers. Again, we will start by making a slip knot. And then chain your preferred amount. Count the number of stitches to make sure you have the exact number. And once you did that, we are going to start by chaining one more, which is our turning chain. And again, we will do yarn over slip stitches into each chain. So yarn over, insert into the second chain from the hook. The first one is our turning chain. So insert into the second chain from the hook and work yarn over slip stitches. Until you reach the end. I will leave you here and I will meet you at the end. I'm at the end, and again, don't forget to go into the very first chain. Don't miss it. And before moving forward, you can count the number of stitches to make sure you have the exact number that you need. And then we will start row 2, chain 1 and turn your work. And it's going to be the same row 2 as it was at the hand warmers. So yarn over and insert one yarn over slip stitch into each back loop of each stitch and make sure you don't go into the turning chain. So just place yarn over slip stitches, working in the back loops only. And repeat this process until you reach the end of the row. And I will see you there. Once you're done with the second row, chain 1, turn your work, and repeat this row until you can comfortably wrap the panel around your leg. And you also need to keep in mind if you want to wear these over boots or jeans or just your bare legs and you wear skirts. So make sure that you add that extra few centimeters into the equation while you are working the panel. So continue working row 2 and I will see you when you are done with the whole panel. I'm back and finished my panel, and there's only one thing left to do, which is to connect the two sides. This will be almost identical to the hand warmers, but we won't leave a hole, so we will just slip stitch all the way to the end. So let's start. First, fold your piece with the working yarn being on the top. Try to find the very first chain, which is here, and insert your hook and pull through both loops. And now we will repeat this, only to secure it, going into the very first stitch and the same chain on the other side, and do a slip stitch. And now we will place slip stitches going underneath the stitch and in the next chain, and pull through again underneath the stitch and the chain, and repeat this process until you reach the end. If you didn't have any increase rows or decrease rows by accident, so if you didn't miss any stitches or you didn't add any stitches, then you should have the same amount of chains as you have the same amount of stitches. So you should finish both panels, working both panels at the same time. And don't forget your very last stitch, which again, as you can see, is quite hidden, but it's here. And I'm going to use my nails to get it on my hook. And the last chain, and pull through. And to fasten off, yarn over, cut the yarn leaving a tail, and pull through. And now there's only one thing left to do, which is to weave in the tails. So grab your darning needle and grab your yarn and pull it through the needle. And now we will weave these ends in, and to do that I will use this slip stitch row which we just made, and I will just go under a few stitches. And we do this to hide the tail ends inside the project, because cutting them sometimes can be tricky, because there are times when our projects will unfrog if you cut the yarn, but if you hide them, then there's less chance for them to get undone. And once you're done, just cut the excess yarn and give it a gentle pull so the tail disappears. And just repeat this step with all of your tails on every piece that you made. And once you've hidden every tail, you can turn your project inside out. And as you can see, this is where my seam is, and it's barely noticeable. You are done. I really hope you enjoyed making this with me and had fun along the way. If you're new here, I write crochet patterns which you can find linked in the description, and I make tutorials for the easier ones, so even complete beginners can feel included. If you enjoyed this tutorial, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe and check out my channel for more crochet. Bye!